Welcome to EternalJourney, the podcast.
Greetings, all my knights and padawans out there. You are listening to EternalJourney, the podcast that talks about all things eternal with a focus in limited play. I'm your host, Jedi, and this is episode 91 of the podcast, where we are going to be interviewing world champion LightsOutAce. That's right, we got a chance to pull him away from his busy life to get the inside scoop on how Worlds was. World Championship thing. Yeah, that. Anywho, moving on. Great start to the show. Want to welcome on the show my good friends week after week. They hang out and make me sound smarter than I really am. John Holio. What's up, man?
Hey. Hey, guys. What's going on?
Howdy.
That other sweet sounding sultry voice is Darth_Herman to Alex. What's up?
What's up, fellas?
Yo.
Wonder if we're going to talk about a little Eternal today or not. Not necessarily sure, because we have the interview, so we're going to throw that in there. I'm just wondering if we're going to do a little chit chat. Anywho, real quick housekeeping, guys. Twitch.tv/Jedi_EJ, where you can catch us streaming live every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. Had a fun cube draft today. Drafted our peasant cube today. Had some fun games. Might throw up a couple on YouTube and whatnot. Speaking of YouTube, you can catch some content, both limited and constructed, and beginner tutorials and help stuff on youtube.com/EternalJourney, to include the video version of this podcast. I definitely encourage that for things like the mini campaign, set reviews, and all that good stuff, where you can actually see all the cards on screen for you. And lastly, shout outs. Want to give shout outs and thank yous to all the people that help support this podcast and the channel on Twitch. No new subscribers this month, but that's all, or this week, but that's a-okay, because we have a couple of strong returning people, as well as an ongoing thank you to all of the people that continuously support the channel. Really means a lot to us, helps us just keep on doing the stuff and things, keeping the lights on and whatnot. So, Luke Heiza, thank you so much for the 9-month anniversary today. Got their Jedi Knight promotion ceremony, which was awesome. Shout out to John Holio for giving me the idea for that one. And then, of course, MLNTN, strong misplay player, coming in with the full 12-month. I can't believe it, man. It's crazy now. I've been streaming for so long. I keep seeing people with 14, 16, 12-month subs and stuff. It's insane to think about how long y'all have been staring at my ugly mug. So thank you guys. You too, Alex and John. You guys are great, man. Appreciate you guys.
You're great.
Ditto. Agreed.
No, you're great, man. You're crazy, man. But all right, that's going to do it for our announcements. Pretty quick stuff. So let's get into our pack one, pick one, because I'm excited for it. I think this one, not too bad. I'm interested. I'm interested about this one. So let's go into our comments real quick. For those of you just joining us, we do go over the first pack of a draft and kind of dissect what cards we would take to kind of help you steer you in a direction when you have your own packs. We are drafting Argent Depth still, but they flipped the old script on us, and we are drafting 2.0 version, where the draft packs are first, meaning that we are seeing all the repeats from previous formats. But I gotta say, it's a good way to change up the draft format using similar cards. First up, we have Token of Menace, which is depleted power, giving us Fire, Primal, and Shadow. A safe first pick, but not exactly anything we're excited about. Copper Hall Porter is a 2/1 for 2 Justice. And Entomb, draw a Justice Sigil from your deck. Solid 2-drop, just helps smooth out your power plays and combos very well with Siphoner. But once again, not exciting 2-drop. This is our first pick. I'm sorry. This is a really solid first pick in the form of Trailmaker, another 2/1 for 2 time. But it gives you +1 maximum power, and on summon, gain an influence of your choice, which can trigger Surge in the late game, can help you get that crucial 4th influence for those heavy payoff cards, as well as just plain old helping you get to your splash color. So Trailmaker, a solid pickup there. Caleb's Favor is a 2 fire slow spell, deal 2 damage to the enemy player, and draw a fire sigil from your deck. Not exciting. Mithril Mace is a +3/+4 relic weapon for 5 Justice. I mean, I've seen people play it. You have a chance of getting a 2-for-1 out of it. I am not particularly a fan of this card. Honestly, I've rarely been putting any of these relic weapons into my deck, to include the fact that I've actually been passing on Massive Late Sword here lately. My decks just don't need it. And yeah, it's kind of a thing, which is surprising because the card is pretty powerful and you're almost guaranteed a 2-for-1 with it, and sometimes get a 3-for-1. But I digress because that card is not in the pack. Next up, we have Cobalt Acolyte, which is the 2/1 Shaman for 3 Primal. Summon, give a unit flying to include itself or an enemy unit. If you should have a way of, killing a flying unit or whatever, you kind of roundabout way to feel witty about yourself, you can do that. This card is
Pop
good.
Aegis.
Yeah. Pops Aegis. Good call. Yeah, the card is good. I feel like I like it most in something like Elysian, or maybe even a Skycrag build where you have those units with the heavy attack to kind of capitalize on that. Not so much in Feln or in Huru. I just feel like the units they're either already flying or just not aggressive enough to really value that, but it's a solid card. I still don't think it beats out Trailmaker. Next up, we have Felrock's Infiltrators, a 1/1 deadly for 3 double shadow. Has deadly, unblockable, and then mastery 5. Draw one of the top 5 cards of the enemy player's deck. They discard the rest. So if you're playing against Jedi, I think this card is an all-star because you are going to take my bomb or the answer that I need to your deck off of that mastery trigger. But if you're not playing against me, then I think this card is fine. It's kind of medium, not super excited about taking it. It does combo well with things that allow you to ping, such as the Ice Bow. You put the Ice Bow on this, it will do the 1 damage in the form of deadly and will kill the unit. So there's that cuteness. Then, of course, you can steal the mastery by pumping it or whatnot. Amethyst Acolyte is a 2/1 for 3 shadow. Summon, give an enemy unit -1/-1. Quite relevant in this format. There are a lot of X1s that can perish to this guy, and you still have a 2/1 left back to block or attack with. Solid card as well, but out of all these commons, I'll be honest with you, still Trailmaker. The card is just great. Does so many things, has a high chance of making your deck, and time, as John has expressed before as well as Alex, is the way you want to start if you want to go as many colors or stay as open as possible, because the most fixing is in time. Going up to the uncommons, we have Fear Tracker, which is a 5/4 for 5 double shadow. Summon, Fear Tracker deals 3 damage to enemy player, and you gain 3 life. Corrupted 4, which means that when this guy dies, you will get an 0/4 that loses a health every turn, and you could pay 4, I believe, right? I think you pay 4 to have it deal. It's a summon effect again, i.e. dealing 3 and gaining 3. I won't get too depth in these uncommons and rares because I'll let you guys do that. Skycrag Wolvark is the 3/3 for 5 primal, flying, and killer dragon. Solid card as well. One of my personal favorite displays here is Display of Honor. This is a 3 honor influence, i.e. fire, justice, primal, fast spell. And you can choose one of 3 modes. Give one of your units +4/+4 and lifesteal this turn, or draw 2 weapons from your void, or transform an enemy unit into a 2/1 goat. And then finally, Back for More is a 3 double justice, single shadow fast spell. Play a unit from your void that died this turn. It gets Aegis. All right, John, starting off with you, my friend. What are you looking at in this pack, and why?
I definitely agree with that. Out of the commons, Trailmaker is would be my pick there. But I like these uncommons quite a bit. All 3 of them. But for a pack one, pick one, I'm probably looking between the Wyvark and the Fear Tracker, and it's a pretty easy Fear Tracker for me. I'm not really looking at Back for More here at all, in case anyone's curious. What are you thinking, Alex?
That's like word for word what I was gonna say. Like, I like all these uncommons, I like a lot, but I think the Fear Tracker is the best one. If those cards aren't in the pack, I don't mind taking the Trailmaker. I like that card a lot too. I'm not looking to first pick a double faction rare that's okay if you're in those colors, but Fear Tracker, I think, just does the most work for you. The Wyvark in this set is like not as good as it usually is. There's so many flyers that just outclass it, and then the body you're left after the killer, if it's still alive, is just kind of underwhelming. And then I'm not looking to go 3 colors with my first pick either, although I do love that display and would be willing to pick it up later. So yeah, it's an easy Fear Tracker for me as well.
Yep.
Sounds like we're on the same page.
Yep, and that's exactly what I ended up taking was Fear Tracker out of this pack as well. The card is just solid, single faction, great unit, good stats, etc., etc. I want to say the displays go up a little bit more for me in pack 1 pick 1 if they have time in their faction, just because once again, like I just mentioned, time has the highest amount of fixing. So that kind of opens you up to 3 colors. But yeah, I think even though there is decent amount of fixing in this format, I think I'm still hard pressed to take the displays first pick or this early in the draft. Back for more, I personally don't think I would take it, but I think I could understand the justification for it if it was a pack 4 pick 1 and you had maybe 1 or 2 really solid cards that you would like to play, right? Like for example, if you had Fear Tracker already in the deck and you see a back for more, I can kind of see that being a little busted, but I don't think I'd probably still not take it because you have to have the 3 power open and literally you have to lose the unit you want to bring back, right? So I think it's a little situational. I could see this being a very powerful card, but I think I like cards that are a little more consistent than the
Disappear.
Yeah, than the very niche blowout card. Yeah, and yeah, Disappear is in the format, though I gotta admit I'm seeing a lot less of them, to include me cutting them from the deck as well. So that's something to consider. I mean, snaps are still all over the place and cut ties, but yeah, I do feel like Disappear I'm actually seeing a little less of and seeing a little more of silence going on. But we might save that discussion next week when we have a collector on the show talking about the format, and all 3 of us can do a little bit more deeper of a dive into it.
Yeah, I'm just definitely not into like back for more. I don't think in general unlimited, right? Like
yeah. Like I said,
hold up 3 power, just crossing your fingers that your opponent's gonna kill your unit that you like so much. Like that's not the kind of thing I want to be doing.
Yeah, it has to be a very specific.
Good with the Fear Tracker, like any good enter the battlefield effect that you can get on board, you kind of can attack kind of recklessly, like, yeah, block my stuff, go ahead, I'm gonna just bring it right back. But it's like very situational, but it can be a blowout,
Yeah, like I said, I'd be more inclined to consider running it if I had something like maybe a Sapphire Drake or and once again, then you're in 3 colors. But something that's really powerful that playing 2 of would just be horrendous, right? But there's enough silence in the format. There's enough tuck effects like Disappear that even then this card is probably a little lackluster. So yep, but just wanted to appeal to everything. But all right, that's our pack 1 pick 1. So let's dive into this interview. Alrighty, everyone, welcome back, and we have a special guest on the show today, world champion. That's right, he's been a veteran of the game for an extremely long time, streamed, been in top 8s of tournaments all the time. This guy is no stranger to the competitive scene, and it's great to see that he got rewarded for his hard work with a ton of recognition, some bragging rights, and even a little bit of money. So I want to welcome on the show Lights Out Ace. How are you doing, brother?
Hello, I'm doing great, and it's wonderful to be here.
Sweet. Well, man, we got a lot to cover, and I know you're a busy person, so I want to go ahead and jump right into it. So let's go ahead and just start at the beginning. I know it's kind of a boring question, but it's a good place to start for new people that are listening to the show and may, for some strange reason, not know who you are. So how long have you been playing Eternal, and what's your favorite format?
I've been playing Eternal since close to the beginning. I think it actually started in April of 2016, and I joined the closed beta in July of 2016. I first played competitively, I guess, and by competitively I mean grinded the ladder and made it into Masters in August the next month, and I have been playing ever since then. I don't think there's ever been a week where I didn't get at least 5 of my 7 pack of the days or daily wins back before they had pack of the day. And I wrote articles for a couple of years. I streamed for a few years. I had to kind of put that on the back burner with the birth of my child, but he is a little older now, and so I've been streaming once a week. It's nice to get back into that. And my favorite format is definitely Expedition in the current options. The Throne has felt pretty bad to me for a while, and Draft is really exciting always for about 3 weeks for me, and I draft a ton when a new set comes out, and then I get kind of bored of it because the mid-season mix-ups, or they change the weightings in the packs, just doesn't change it enough for my take. So after the first month of a new set, I generally only draft a few times and end up in like gold or diamond or something.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That I think that's the standard for a lot of people that play all the formats. Is kind of hit up the draft format when it's new, get your change up, and then once things settle down, you get some cards, you just kind of move back to constructed. But it is interesting that you're liking Expedition, because I feel like a lot of the enfranchised players have kind of got bounced back and forth depending on the Expedition format, but Throne as well is a lot of the same cards you've seen forever. And so I can see where that gets old, even though I'm assuming that the meta changes from time to time. You wrote, I completely forgot about the article part. I always knew I was going to miss something, but you've done a lot. And so like, what has kept you around for so long? Because a lot of people normally take breaks at some point, yet you keep on trucking. And the one break you have taken is because of IRL things, which is totally understandable. By the way, congratulations. That's fantastic on a small lights out ace. So what do you think?
We call him Tykes Out Ace.
Ooh, nice, nice. I like that. Yeah, and then wipes out ace, right?
Yeah, that's actually her name in game. She doesn't play Eternal anymore. Hasn't since like set 5. But when she did play in game, her tag was Wife Out Ace.
Nice, that's awesome. You gotta appreciate a family of games together, right?
Yeah, we just play board games together now.
Hey, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. So yeah, what do you think? What about Eternal has just kind of kept you around this long?
Well, I was a Magic player for a long time. I started playing in Time Spiral, which I think was 2006. So I played Magic for a good 10 years before I started playing Eternal. And Eternal's obviously very similar, being basically what Magic would be if it was built from the ground up for digital. So it doesn't have all the annoying things from paper that online Magic has, like manually tapping lands and having a million pauses per turn. So Eternal's just way, way better in that regard. And then it also lined up perfectly with me getting sick of Hearthstone and Magic Standard kind of taking a turn south. Standard was the format that I played the most in Magic. And so it just latched on to me as my card game. And I just love card games. I've played card games since the Pokemon trading card game when I was 5 years old. So I pick my favorite one and I just play it forever. So I just play it Eternal still. I don't think I've ever had a time when I didn't want to play a card game. And then even when I play one-player games, like lately I've been playing, what I played recently, I played Resident Evil 7, I played Wargroove. I'm currently playing The Witcher 3. I had to put that on back burner for Worlds testing. But like even then, I like play those at night, and during my lunch break, I play Eternal. I love card games.
Yep, I pretty much exclusively play Eternal now when it comes to card games. I've stepped away from everything else. It's just kind of won me over, so I can completely understand that. You did mention Worlds, which is one of the reasons why we have you on the show. So let's start at the beginning there. How did you qualify for Worlds?
I won the 3rd ECQ way back in January. It was Expedition, the best format, with my best deck, my best archetype, Grindy Shadow midrange. Argenport midrange is tier 0 in that Expedition. And when the Grindy Shadow midrange deck is the best deck, I am a force to be reckoned with. I think I'm very, very good at building such decks, playing such decks, especially navigating the mirrors. You don't want to go up against Lights Out Ace in the Shadow midrange mirror. And that was just a kind of a perfect storm of conditions to have me win a tournament and qualify for Worlds.
Nice. Yeah, I actually remember watching some of those games. The matchups, the mirrors were, man, some grindy matchups for sure. But like you said, you navigate them like a pro and took down the title, which is fantastic, which is great because you managed to answer another one of my questions that was what your favorite archetype is. And what I'm right there with you. Argenport, Ambition, Rakano are kind of my little happy medians. I just like the way it plays out, the combination of removal and valuable units and things like that. What about that archetype draws you to it? What do you appreciate about it?
The thing that I really love in card games is when a lot of small incremental advantages can add up over time to convert the better player into winning the game. And when the games are longer and grindier, there's a lot more little decision points, a lot more opportunities for you to get those tiny edges, and those tiny edges add up over the course of a long game into you having a very high win percentage if you know how to navigate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So I guess the answer is I win a lot and it's mentally stimulating.
No, that's a very good point. I think it's something that a lot of drafters can also identify, because don't get me wrong, there are those games in limited and in constructed to a lesser extent where you just feel it, right? There's one turn that happens, a block, a combat trick, a certain interaction that you're like, okay, that's a block. This is where X person took over the game, or they won the game right there. And sometimes it leads back other ways where you might lose by 1 point. You're like, oh man, they had Xaxes. But if you go back and look at the turns you played previously, you might have given up a point or two of life that you didn't need to. And so that's where those incremental advantages you were talking about really come in for the better player, allowing them to take down games that they may or may not have. So
I mean, draft is super fun. Like everybody always says it like, well, you just flood out and you lose your game. And it's like, sure, once in a while you draw 13 power and your opponent draws 7 and you lose because you were down 6 cards, but that doesn't happen that often. Like, making the correct decisions matters a ton in limited.
Mm-hmm. Where are you at on the Rolling Iron Tyrant, since you mentioned Argenport mid-range, because he is absolutely one of my favorite cards. So what's your opinion on him?
So when that card came out, I thought that it looked terrible, and then I actually played with it and it's amazing. Since Backbreaker was nerfed, I haven't actually been able to find a pure Argenport deck that I like. Like, I just can't find 40 cards that I want to play alongside Roland and Vulcan Forcer in Throne. In Expedition, once it lost Tayloot, I think that it wasn't good enough. But TJS is still great in both formats. I actually think that FJS, well, a little worse than TJS in both formats, is a good deck with Roland.
Now, something that came up yesterday in stream, so that's when I'm going to throw it your way, because you actually played when this guy was legit. What about rolling on 4 into Tavrod on 5 with something like Backbreaker and Greatsword in your deck?
I kind of miss Tavrod sometimes. There was a long stretch of Eternal where if you weren't in Argenport itself, you just didn't have any way to kill it. So 60% of the ladder just died if you played a single Tavrod by turn 7. And it carried a lot of hilarious and bad decks for me on stream. Like, I think 4-faction Echo Tavrod is the pinnacle of this phenomenon, where I took the Echo Macto deck that was popular at the time and cut Macto for Tavrod. And then
Oh my gosh.
At one point, I won like 7 games in a row on ladder. I went 4-3 in an ETS with it. Like, I had a winning record. I have some YouTube highlights of that. I recorded that ETS and it's on YouTube. And also I have a game called The Perfect Game on my YouTube where I am playing against a unitless control deck and I win with my 11th Tavrod with 0 cards left in my deck.
Yeah, I was going to say,
perfect game.
Tavrod dies, picks up another Tavrod, buffs it, and then that Tavrod gets shuffled back in your... Oh gosh, yeah, definitely. When we're done recording, give me the link. I'll throw it in the show notes because I want to check it out as well. So I think that's great. That's awesome. Yeah, when he first went into Expedition a couple of Expedition formats ago, that was the very first thing I tried to jam, and sadly it didn't quite work out. Not quite sure, but it is what it is. But all right, let's go ahead and get down to brass tacks here. So you qualified for Worlds off a deck that you really enjoyed, and so the biggest thing was obviously that Worlds was kind of in the dark. We had a general idea that they were going to have it and maybe a time frame, but when they finally spit out the details, it was what we were looking at, I think maybe a month away, I believe, maybe even less for the format. How did preparation for Worlds go for you?
Yeah, so they told us that was going to be Throne and Expedition, but we didn't get the actual like round by round breakdown until the week before, which was kind of cutting it close. But I mean, we knew that we had to do both formats. Wait, what was the question exactly? How did I prepare?
Yes.
So once we got it, we immediately realized that Throne is way, way more important than Expedition. So we kind of got an Expedition deck that we were comfortable enough with. It ended up being a Skycrag Sling deck. It was really good against the FTP Sling deck that was on Warcry. So we thought some people might play that since it was kind of in the dark format. And a lot of the players weren't on big teams, so they'd be kind of going in blind and might just play decks off Warcry. And then it was also very, very good. Like, it's almost a buy against every mid-range deck without relic removal. So like Mono Time or Xenon or Mono Shadow, that kind of stuff, it just completely rolls over. And being 2-faction makes it so you have smooth power. You have you get to play 8 Waystones, especially Cobalt Waystones, so you have Aegis to protect your Sling. And then you get to play Geminon, who is not just a meme. She is actually unkillable. So she dies to Shenron Speaks. She dies to a few things if you attack. and she dies to From Anguish, and that is about it. And so she just dominates the board, and I love playing Geminon because there's a Gurren Lagann reference in the name, and I love that anime.
It is actually hilarious how that card has, obviously when it first was spoiled, there was a lot of hype in the flavor text essentially. I mean, I have seen people kill someone with the deal 100 damage, etc. But most of the time, it's just kind of bounced in and out because it's just stats, right? It's really well statted for its efficiency. But man, sometimes it is so relevant. And right now, when all these people are playing Sling and trying to do 6 damage to things, sitting there with 10 health and 7 attack just feels so good. So it's crazy how popular that card can be sometimes based on the meta.
I didn't actually get to pull it off in the tournament, but I did get to pull off the mastery several times in testing. Like she'd get permafrosted, or like in a sling mirror, like you each have a sling out, so you're each dealing 6 damage a turn from your sling, and then like 2 units trade, and like you play a Huntress, and like you did 35 damage that turn. Like it gets there in a hurry.
It's kind of Battlecruiser Magic or Battlecruiser Eternal going on. Like everyone just swinging haymakers at each other. I can imagine it clocks up there. Heaven forbid, some people playing Instinct too, throw away to give it double damage or whatnot. Or oh shoot, I forgot the name of it now. Not Wump and Mizo, Milo and Ila and Mizo.
Oh, Ila and Mizo.
Yeah, where, oh man, I've done that where if you have 2 slings, it just keeps making copies of itself and blasting everyone. Oh, it's so good.
So that was what we did for Expedition. But since Expedition was so much less important, we did maybe 15% of our testing in Expedition. It was almost all thrown. We made a spreadsheet of like what decks we expected, and then we jammed the decks we were considering playing against those and just sort of marked if they felt good, felt bad, felt close. And then throughout most of testing, we were leaning towards this even time Xenon deck with Sand Warrior and Alhead and stuff. This deck is on Warcry as well. And we tuned it so that I was good against everything we expected. Like we felt very favored against Elysian and against Kira and against Yetis. But then we were just like, what if somebody plays something we don't expect? What if someone plays a control deck? What if somebody plays something over the top like World Pyre or something? Like we're just going to get crushed because our deck is just like cheap dudes in removal. So 2 hours before the deck submission deadline, we switched over to the FJP control deck, which we had tested. Like it wasn't like we just, let's switch to this deck we haven't played, but we weren't seriously considering playing it really. The very first thing we did when we were talking about control is like, well, control just gets crushed by Yetis. So let's play that matchup, get crushed by Yetis, and then write it off because we expect a lot of people to play Yetis at Worlds. And then our list just beat Yetis, and we're like, well, that must be a fluke. And so we played it some more, and some different people played it, and it just kept on beating Yetis. Like the deck is probably 80% against Yetis. It just absolutely demolishes it. So then we're like, well, let's just play this. It beats all the mid-range decks. It beats Yetis. So like, what really beats FJP? And so we ran it. It ended up working out really well in hindsight, obviously. The matchups in the actual tournament, there ended up being way more Kira than we expected, which is kind of a rough matchup. The card Koryovet Palace specifically is extremely hard to deal with. As you can see in the finals, the way that you deal with it is Snowball plus Savage Incursion as a 5-cost slow spear, as 5-cost slow seer, which feels really bad, but it's what you have to do to answer the card. So we just, in the week in between day 1 and top 16, we just practiced the matchups against Elysian and Kira so much. Probably I myself played probably 40 to 50 games of each, just like 2 hours every single night. And my teammates played a bunch more. And we practiced it until FJP was favored. And then that played out in practice.
Yeah, and one of the things you were talking about just now is like, yes, it is an expensive way to get rid of a palace, but I believe most decks are running it strictly in the market. So, just dealing with that one, it kind of locks it up for you. So, I mean, it's kind of a means to an end one way or another. You know what I mean? And
just that one in the market means they have 8 ways to find it, though. So they always find it. So you're always going to have to craft your game plan from turn 1 about how do I answer their cheap units and then deal with their palace.
Fair. Yeah. And how relevant is the bubble shields in that format, or in that? Because I feel like they just have to dodge the hail. Well, no, I guess the intrusion also stops the snowballs and the ice bolts, but I feel like that's a little free in your deck running Garden and Juden Hurler and things like that. I'm not sure. So how important was the Bubble Shield and Intrusion in those matchups?
So those cards are always going to interact favorably with you. Like they're always going to counter something. But at the end of the day, it's just a 1-for-1. Like they're trading one card for one of your cards. Like if they have a Kira in play, sure, they draw another card. It's not like that power efficient compared. Like they counter Hailstorm, like is 3-for-1, but generally it's just 1 power for 1 power. And you're fine making those trades. You have way more card draw than them, even with Kira. The scary part is just the Palace. And in Tydragon's deck, reinforcements. But fortunately, Tydragon lost before I had to face them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair. True story. Well, I mean, that pretty much boils down. You're killing it right now because that pretty much covers not only how'd you prepare for Worlds, but also why you picked those specific archetypes. And I gotta say, I'm always happy to see Honor Control. I know it's not everyone's favorite archetype, and I personally lean a little more into a couple of Haymakers. I'm not the biggest fan of Sanctum. I think it's cool when it goes off, but it's a little, I don't know, I think it's a little niche sometimes and a little slow. You guys didn't have any in your deck, correct?
No, playing win conditions and control is a trap. Like just the Tamarisk off Garden and the Knife is enough. And we even had Market, Incursion, and Scourge. So we had plenty of win conditions. And like I feel you on like control is kind of boring. Like I think the deck is pretty boring. It's not that good outside of open deck lists. I don't enjoy playing it as much as I enjoy playing grindy mid-range decks. But in a tournament like this, I'm gonna play what gives me the best chance to win.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I'm not faulting at all. Like I'm very much with you. I sit closer to the mid-range type of archetypes, the ones I enjoy, than versus straight control. I don't know. Maybe it's because I can do micro decisions to kind of get me there, but I'm not consistent enough for the control ones to really pay off. Right? Sometimes I use the wrong removal spell at the wrong time or draw at the wrong time, but I think it's fun. It definitely gives you a sense of accomplishment for sure. And I know there's a lot of people out there, especially those ladder grinders, that can't stand control decks because they're running aggro decks. But, you know, everyone has their day. Sometimes you just spank someone on turn 3 and there's nothing they can do. So, sweet. All right. Well, tell us about the tournament. How did it go for you? Like, what were some of the matchups that you were really sweating? Did you get some lucky top decks going on, things like that? How was the experience for you?
It was pretty like not stressful overall. Like I had practiced the matchup so much that I knew what to do, and I like got really good pairings in Expedition and Top 16. Like both of the matches I hit really good matchups for me. I had one was the FTP Sling deck and one was the Mono Shadow, and those are just both probably 70-80% matchups for me, so that was really nice. And then the first round of Throne, I faced Collector, who is the player, I don't want to say scared, that's not the right word, but the player that I most didn't want to face because he's the scariest competitor in the tournament to me. He's actually the person who got second in the ECQ that I won. Like I beat him in the finals there. And he's playing a Legion, which is a deck that can go really long and has a lot of play to it. So when a really fearsome player like that is playing it, it's going to be a hard matchup. But I managed to win that. So it's just like a really clean 3-0 into top 8. And then my top 8 match was against Gage on Yetis, who messaged me before the matchup talking about how hopeless it was and how he got a bad pairing. So like he was basically mentally defeated before it even started. So I pretty easily cleaned that up. And I had to face Collector again in top 4, but I won that again. It was a really tense moment in game 3 where we both had kind of gotten down to nothing. And it was just kind of, will he draw a Helio first or will I draw a Merchant first? But I wasn't even scared at that point because I had 4 Merchants left and he only had 2 Helios. And if we both hit, like he drew Helio and I drew Merchant, I would win because Scourge beats Helio heads up. And like I was at 13 power, like I could play the Merchant and play the Scourge in the same turn. So it wasn't like that frightening ever. I guess I kind of was calm the whole time because I knew what I was doing and I knew how to play all the matchups and I knew that I was playing as well as I could. And I also recorded all of my matches. I am going over them one a day. Basically, I'm trying to do one a day and putting them on YouTube so I can link that to you as well. Yeah,
I'll definitely add those to the show notes, which I think is fantastic. That's definitely something, especially the closer matchups where you're not quite sure where the mistake or the win happened. You can go back and kind of fine tune things. And sometimes even though you won the match, you can go back and look and be like, wow, I actually made some pretty big mistakes. Or sometimes you lose and you're like, well, I made the 100% correct play here. It just worked out in my opponent's favor and things like that. So how's the review process been going for you?
Well, it's been going pretty well. I mean, I knew at the time when I was making mistakes and when I was playing well. Like I made a couple bonehead mistakes where I did the thing and then I immediately was like, oh, I played the wrong power and I'm going to lose this game. Or there's another one. It's like I didn't get to this in video yet, but like I was playing a sling mirror and I had a face aegis and a sling and a transpose in hand. And I had a Geminon in play against a clear board. And I was like, well, I don't really want to attack this Geminon because they might have Desert Alchemist. Oh, I'll just Rain of Frogs them first. And I played the transpose. And I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot because they're just going to transpose my Rain of Frogs. And I'm not going to be able to check if they have Desert Alchemist. And I just wasted my transpose. So now if they have their own transpose, they can get Furnace Mage and blow up my sling. And like that exact thing happened. Like they had the transpose to block my Rain of Frogs. And like I got blown out. But I was so far ahead at that point that it didn't end up mattering. The guy's already way ahead before I made that dumb mistake.
It's funny that you mentioned something like that because I feel like that happens to me quite a bit. And that's probably why I'm just a medium player versus anything more skilled like yourself and whatnot, is because I'll try to start thinking about things and I'll identify the 50-meter target or the A line, and then I'll be down to the C or D line. And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. And then I'll go do like line C or D that I think is a better. And then I completely bypassed the fact that why I had line A. The case in point, like for you had transpose on the radar first, and then you went so deep into it that you forgot about it, and then it kind of bit you. That happens to me all the time where I'm like, yeah, that's right. I mentioned this line at the very beginning and completely forgot about it because I tried to think of everything. So it's some of those times, but like you said, that time it paid off where you were far enough ahead that you were able to recover. So thank goodness for that, right?
Yeah, and everyone makes mistakes. Like I make mistakes, like Boxer makes mistakes, Collector makes mistakes, like everybody makes mistakes. It's how you recover from them that matters, both mentally, like I made a mistake and I lost that game. I need to get back into it and play the next game well. And also like, oh, I made a mistake and I threw away my card and I lost my relic, or I took 12 damage I didn't have to take. How can I still win this game? It's just all about your mental state and keeping your composure when you mess up.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. And that's one of the things I definitely, I preach it more than I care to on my stream, because yeah, it's exactly that. It's like, sometimes it's too late, I can't recover. And then sometimes I identify it like, oh, all right, well, I'm stuck doing this line. So do we just eat the mistake and stop here, or do we push forward, and how can we recover? And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But when it does, it definitely shows you that one decision may or may not be the end of the world. So we talked about things a little bit on our side of the board. How did Direwolf do throughout this whole process? How did things go on that side? Because I know Direwolf has been praised and ridiculed from the community from time to time based on their actions on things. And I know they had some technical difficulties on the broadcasting side of the stream. We saw a lot of things during the draft tournament, but I didn't really see too much in Worlds that I gather. So how was that experience on your end from Direwolf?
Oh, it was the smoothest tournament that has ever been run by them. I think there was a special channel in Discord that they added all of the World Championship competitors to, and their tournament admin would announce all of the pairings and say, here's the pairings, match starts in 4 minutes. And then in 4 minutes, the join match thing would pop up in your client, and you just hit play, and then it would just automatically go into the next round. It was all super, super smooth.
Nice. Great. That's awesome. So you're world champion. Things are behind you, so to speak, for right now. During this, it sounds like you didn't really stress out too much. You just added some really good importance to it. How did this work out in your personal life that we talked about just a little bit? Not to get too personal in it, but I'm assuming this did take a little extra time. Like you said, your boy is older, so you were able to get away a little bit. But did you see a big impact? Did they have to accommodate some things to make this happen, or did it just kind of flow business as usual?
So what I did is I took the week before, like the 8th through the 13th, off of work. So just all day from like 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. I was on voice with Boxer and the rest of Team Rankstar, GHP, Popo Tito, Tri-City Shogun, just like practicing and talking about stuff. Like breaks for lunch or whatever, but like probably 5 or 6 hours a day I was like on with them playing games that week. And then I played more after TOA went to bed. So he goes to bed at like 8 p.m. So I had a couple hours after that to like practice some more games or do a matchup.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So yeah, you were pretty much hitting it as hard as you could to prep for it. And obviously it paid off because like you said several times, you felt really comfortable with those matchups that you were going up against. And it does. I am one of those people that will definitely preach. If you're a good enough player, sometimes you can pick up a deck day of, but there's something to be said about being able to understand the matchups and the ins and outs of your deck and knowing which interactions are going to be the ones that win or lose you the game. And
and all those reps just makes it so you know what kind of hands you can keep. It makes it know what cards you need to save for specific situations, like how you need to save that snowball against Hurukira. Like use a torch instead of a snowball on their turn 3 Hojan because you need the snowball to hit their palace, that sort of thing. Like I'm sure that I practiced all the matchups against my opponents more than they had practiced the matchup against me.
Mm-hmm. Especially bringing something like Honor Control, because I really don't feel it's always kind of lurked around from time to time. It goes up and down in popularity like the most control decks do, but I personally haven't really been seeing it. So did you feel like you guys were kind of brushing the dust off of an old deck or something, or was it on your radar from the get-go?
I mean, it's definitely brushing the dust off. There's no new cards in it except for Silexes, which, well, they are a huge upgrade. Every deck got those. But yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, like we wanted to just discount it. Like this is another deck that exists, but it loses to Yetis, right? Well, it turns out it doesn't. Turns out it's actually great.
Sweet. All right. So what's next for you in Eternal? Like obviously it seems like you're streaming again and whatnot, and you're creating content for your YouTube. So what's the plan in the near future and the long distance for you?
Well, hopefully there's going to be another organized play season. I'm optimistic that there will be, but that's a few months off. So now it's time to just relax and play fun decks. Like I'm going to play some Beacon. I'm going to play some Uxu and Expedition. I have this Giral Crag deck that I really like in Throne. It's like a Sky Crag mid-range deck with Kenna and Giral and Jack in it that I like a lot. I'm just going to, I don't know, play some more relaxing decks instead of being super competitive.
Sweet. Yeah, I mean, if anyone deserves the time off, it's you, right? You put in the work, you got there, played the most amount of games as anyone, and yeah, got rewarded for it. So that's fantastic. I guess we'll wrap it up there. Lights Out Ace, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show. I really do appreciate it. I hope a lot of people gain a little something from this. Let us know, or let them know where they can find you at.
So you can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/lightsoutace1. You can find me on Twitter at it's just at, isn't it? At lightsoutace. If you really want to get into contact with me, the best way to do that is on Discord. I'm on the Discord basically every day. So if you send me a message on Discord, I will see it, and I'll be able to get back to you. And I love talking to people. I don't mind answering questions and such. And thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you, and good luck in the next competitive season.
Thank you.
This week's What's the Play, if you're watching this on YouTube, it is a little interesting just because I snapped the screenshot just a little late, but I did think this was a really interesting board state. And it took me a minute to get there, because of the fact that I had a different line of play that I was hoping to do for about 2 or 3 turns. And then because of a top deck and how my opponent played, I had to adjust plans. But I did manage to pull out lethal here. Let's find out if you guys can. Let me break down the board state here for you people at home. Once again, I do encourage you to check this out either on the Discord or on YouTube if you're more of a visual person like I am. Our opponent is 4 colors, excluding Shadow, with 8 power open and 1 card in hand. We are Praxis with 7 power, and in hand we have a Fire Sigil and a Allosaur, which is the 4/5 for 7. Give it another unit, Killer, and Decay. We're at 3 and our opponent is at 6. So let's break down the board state. Our opponent has an Inferno Zealot, the 8/1 Overwhelm unit. They have a 2/2 flying automated wall or whatever. I forgot what it's called, but the 05 that can turn into a 2/2 flyer. They have a 3/3
makeshift barrier.
Makeshift barrier. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. That's a whirly twirly right there.
Yeah, there you go. That's such a good limited card. I like that card a lot, actually. Right. Then we have a Frostkin, 3/3 Frostkin, and a 4/4 Terriax. What's this card called, John? The flying 4 primal one. Yeah,
I don't know this one.
Dang it. What do you guys look it up real quick while I'm explaining the rest of the board state? But it is the 0/0 for 6 triple, quadruple primal, and then it has its health and attack equal to the number of units you have. So obviously it is a 4/4. Our side of the board consists of a Grenadin drone, the 1/1, a 4/4 sharpshooter, which with it's 4/4 because it has the dagger, corrosive dagger on it. So it's actually a 4/4 quick draw and decay. We have a 5/6 Gravewatch Ancestor that was activated, obviously, a 1/1 Rustling, and then a 0/1 Eager Deputy. Once again, our opponent is at 6 life with 1 card in hand and 8 open power, and we are at 3 life with 7 power. All right, let's start it off with you, Alex, because I think we let John go first last week. So, what? I mean, I already kind of gave it away that there's lethal here, but I was considering the game plan was essentially to play Allosaur. I was waiting on that 7th power to play Allosaur and then kill the flyer with my quick draw decay unit. Anywho, what are you looking at to do?
The Storm Prowler.
Storm Prowler. Thank you so
Storm
much.
Prowler, there you go.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So it looks like there is lethal here, right? And you did kind of give that away when you were like explaining this board state that threw me off because it has Photoshop cards in here. But so if you play the Allosaur and put it on any of your 1/1s, the 0/1 will become a 1/1. I'd probably just put it on my Grenadin, and then kill the 8/1 Overwhelm guy, and that would mean that 6 damage would get through at least. They'd have to block the 5/6 with their 1 blocker, and then they would take 6 for lethal. Yeah.
Yep, that's
Right?
it. Yep, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I mean, once you figure it out, I guess. Like I said, it took me a while to get there, and I think it's because for the last 3 turns when I was waiting on that 7th power, I essentially was kind of looking to kill the flyer with the sharpshooter. But yeah, if we just attack here, our opponent can block 1 thing and it won't be lethal. Because they did leave 2 blockers back, so you literally have to find a way to get one of the blockers out of the way and force the issue. And so I actually played it on the Eager Deputy just because I wanted to have like extra attacks. So yeah, playing the Allosaur will trigger the Eager Deputy, making it a 1/1. You give it Killer and Decay, and then you send that over to kill the Inferno Zealot, gets a blocker out of the way, and now you have lethal on board. And yeah, I photoshopped it because I took the screenshot a little too late. I was roping by the time because it took me a minute to think about it. I don't know. Pretty easy one as well, I guess, if you have a moment to look for it. It took me a minute. Once again, maybe I'm not as fast, but I thought that was a puzzle there. I don't know, John, what do you think? Pretty easy one for you?
You just shouldn't have mentioned that, find the lethal basically, because that just made it very easy to, for me and Alex, I think.
Fair.
Because,
I think
right.
I'm sure that was it. Like because of your state of mind throughout the last few turns, this was a lot harder for you to figure out, quickly. But for us, it's just there's lethal, and boom, there it is. You just you got the 1 card, so it's like yeah, it's pretty straightforward for us right now. Yeah, you literally just Allosaur any of these 1/1s or 0/1, and you win.
So, I mean, would you have been looking for lethal there considering that they were at 6? Because I know, John,
no, maybe not. I mean, no, and I think I remembered this game, right? Like, and so because your opponent just suddenly got aggressive, it just forced the issue, right? It's like, okay, well, we just have to win here or we lose, right?
Yeah, especially having, 8 attack overwhelm on the board as well as aerial lethal or whatnot. So, yeah, I think that was a little bit. I will say that we got a little lucky. I think if my opponent was a little more aggressive with their Inferno Zealot, they probably would have won this game. But the fact that they left it back on defense for at least 2 turns really put us in a position where we had that chance to crack back for a good amount. And
yeah, I think they could have cracked in with the Zealot even before you grew the Ancestor here into a 5/6, right? I feel like they could have definitely gotten in some overwhelm damage with that at some point and traded for some units.
Yeah, especially knowing that they couldn't block the quick draw, and that's what got us there. Is I just kept sending in the quick draw, the sharpshooter, and was like, all right, either block it, chump block it, or take damage, and that got us close enough. But yeah, I did spend and case in point why I dropped the Eager Deputy and actually turned a card into that power because I wanted to get our 7th power quick, fast, and in a hurry. Ironically,
Yeah,
I drew another power.
That was a heads up play.
Yeah, heads up play. So, and of course, in great Jedi fashion, I waited like 2 turns or 3 turns for that power. Never saw it, so I just played the Deputy to guarantee the power the next turn. And it's like, oh, hey, there's the power. Sweet. Yeah, maybe next time. I guess I won't say anything to you guys, but you guys also get it in the show notes, so you have time to kind of assess a little bit if you have the time. So,
speaking of heads up plays and Worlds competitors, did you guys see that Reddit post with the excellent heads up breakdown from the Worlds broadcast?
No, please divulge.
Yeah, they broke it down. Who got the most heads up plays from the announcers, and there was like a pie chart for like which types of heads up play, whether it was like a really heads up play or like a super heads up play, and like there was like a tally. And I think if I remember correctly, like Collector and Ace were among, like, they were tied with like 1 or 2 others for most heads up plays of the tournament.
Nice. That's kind of cool. So I know that was a running meme because the announcers were kind of going off on it, but I mean, I guess, John, do you want to go ahead and elaborate what a heads up play essentially is? Because I think all 3 of us have the same definition for it, but maybe some of the newer card players or listeners may not know. So do you want to break it down for us real quick?
Sure.
And then you can tell us what a legit and a super heads up play is, and break down the rating for us as well.
This is too much. It's too much.
Nah, man, I get to troll you too. Throw it down.
I'm sure.
Think
sure
fast.
All of our
heads up.
listeners know what a heads up play is.
There's
Surely.
just so many ways you can say good play, right? That was a good play.
No,
I mean, I think the true the true meaning would be like, something that, even above average player might not necessarily see in every situation, right? Like, it's meant to call out something that's kind of a, like really taking the situation, to a level beyond a normal card game player, right? Like whoa, that was a heads up play. But I feel like with the amount of heads up plays that they're just dropping, they kind of taking away the meaning a little bit.
Okay, all right. At its basic form, its most fundamental form, essentially, and this is my definition of it, I could be wrong, you let me know, but a heads up play is essentially when an opponent or a player makes a play based on outside influences that could happen, like potential lines based on the actions the opponent has been playing or the matchup. And it's not just, hey, this is what the board state looks like, this is the best play to do right here. And they're taking into account outside factors that shows that essentially they're heads up and not down in the dirt, and they're paying attention to the bigger picture to make the play that may seem slightly counterintuitive.
There you go. That was a really good definition, man. Yeah, very good.
Thanks. Alex, are you on board with that?
Yeah, it's oftentimes like a counterintuitive play.
Super heads up play.
Like, yeah, a play that, for some reason killing your own unit or something, or like I don't know.
Not playing your best unit for this turn because you anticipate your opponent having a removal spell for that unit. So you're going to wait and bait it out.
Or like playing something off of curve, like to, draw their removal spell because you have something else in your hand that you would rather them not kill, or I don't know, stuff like that, I guess.
Yep, fair enough. All right. We're not gonna take this too deep. We're not deep diving into heads up play, but hopefully some of our listeners got a laugh off of it. So, all right. So that's what's the play here. After John or Alex gave me some flack for my photoshopping, but I took the screenshot too late. So whatever. I thought it was a neat little puzzle. So screw you guys for judging me.
That was very good. Very good. Heads up. Photoshop work there.
Oh gosh, you're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me. I actually did. There's more than meets the eye in here, to be honest with you. But anywho, all right. This is going to take us into our constructed corner, which today's deck is nothing that you've seen on the tournament or anything. You might have caught it on stream. I'm not going to lie. She used some clickbaity title, and it totally pulled me in. but Kalos designed a damage dragons and parentheses artist formerly known as 44 backlash damage dragons. And there's a screenshot of her hand having 4 backlashes with each doing 11 damage apiece. So there's where the 44 comes in, which I think is absolutely hilarious. And I figured this is a deck that might appeal to both you and me, John. So thank you, Eternal Warcry and Stever Cakes, for making a great website and for the random deck generator or whatnot to display this one. So I'll be honest with you guys, I have not played this deck, though you're going to see some usual suspects in this deck. We've seen this type of deck before, but hold on, she has a lot of pictures and a breakdown for it. But it is, let's see, not counting campaign, is 26,250 shiftstone to create this bad boy. And I will go ahead and break down the list for you. The general premise of this deck, guys, is that you're essentially just trying to spit out as much spell damage cards as possible, and then using that to synergize with spells that care about damage. So breaking it down, it is 4 Cinder Clutch, which is one of the biggest things that we see happening here. This is the 1 fire spell. Deal 1 damage to an enemy for each dragon you have with a different name. Then play a 3/1 Flame Fang with Reckless for each damage Cinder Clutch dealt. So the big thing here is the fact that you can pay 1, and then let's say you have +2 spell damage, Cinder Clutch will now do 3, and you'll get 3/3/1 Flame Fangs to attack next turn. So the card is extremely potent in decks that can buff its power to where all of a sudden you're getting 7 guys in 1 turn. Ruinous Burst is a 4 Ruinous Burst, 1 fire fast spell, deal 1 damage to 2 enemies. So once again, if you buff it where it gets spell damage, then all of a sudden like a +2 will allow you to do 3 damage to 2 enemies. So you essentially get 2 lightning bolts or 2 torches for the price of 1. 3 Backlash, which is the 2 Primal Negate. An enemy spell and deal 2 damage to enemy player. That's why that one is in there, because it does damage as well. And both John and I have definitely gotten Backlash lethal, and let me tell you, it feels oh so good. Gimminon's Choice, 3 of those. 3 Caleb's Favor, 4 Rock Slide, 4 Spellbound Vestige, 3 Torrential Downpour, 4 Wizened Crone, which is the 2/1 spell damage guy, Yeti, 4 Acadonis Unattained, which is the 3/4 for 4 Skycrag Dragon Flying, Mastery 3, increase the damage of a spell in your hand by 3, so that's a big buff in combos with Cinder Clutch. And Mastery 12, create and draw 3 copies of a spell in your hand. Crimson Firemaw, 4 of those. 4 Eclipse Dragon, woot woot. 3 Iceberg Warchief, 3 Sindok Rage Incarnate. 5 Fire Sigil, 4 Primal Sigil, 4 Crest of Fury, 4 Seed of Fury, 4 Skycrag Silex, and 4 Skycrag Insignias, with a market consisting of Draconic Ire, simply because you can, when you hit within the dragon, when you hit the enemy with a dragon, you can play this card from your market without having to go search, because you have no other ways of accessing the market. So yeah, I mean, I already broke down the deck pretty much. You're just trying to get as much spell damage on your spells as possible and really kind of abusing it. So these cards that are okay just become fantastic. If you notice, some of these give you extra value on top of the damage, so you're doing that, and several of these cards deal more damage to more than 1 unit, which is another way to combo off. Doing a Torrential Downpour for 4 damage essentially can make an even better Hailstorm on multiple axes. Yeah, that's pretty much it. John, do you have anything to add about this kind of deck? I know it's a little kind of all in with things like Iceberg Warchief and Sindok, but I mean, the core of the deck is there. We've seen it before, and something I've seen you definitely capitalize to the point where I believe this took a deck of this nature took you to day 2 of an ECQ, correct?
Yeah, similar. I think twice even. Like, I used to play just kind of like a dragon top end counter, like Skycrag counter burn deck that I used to do really well with. And it's, you know, the basic plan there is just curve out with dragons, and then once you curve out with the Eclipse at the top end, well, on the opponent's turn you get your power back and can hold up for a backlash or whatever, so that protects you from, you know, the harsh rule or whatever, and typically then you just win the next turn. And so like that's basically the the fallback game plan here, and I think that's a solid one. And then the other game plan is obviously, like you mentioned, all the spell damage stuff, and we've seen this be an effective thing. In fact, one of the Worlds competitors took something similar to this to Worlds, right? Like Vader was playing something like this, so yeah, it's still viable, still fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
I won with it on stream. I played Vader's deck, so shout out to Vader. We need to get him back on the show as well. We'll get him maybe week after next, get him back on the show, find out his dealings with both Worlds and this current format. But yeah, Dex.
One suggestion I see down in the suggestions as well is talking about a smuggler, and like, yeah, I mean, there's literally no 3-drops in the deck, so I mean, yeah, if anyone wants to just make some tweaks here, like, add in the Skycrack Smuggler with spell damage, you could probably just swap it for Wizened Crone. Does literally the same thing for, 1 more power, and then you just have more market access. Could put some other stuff in the market if you just want to make it a little more competitive or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The something else I was about to say about this kind of deck as well. Oh yeah, if you guys ever don't know the feeling of a warm safety blanket around you, I definitely encourage you to play Backlash in your deck. Mainly Backlash because it counters everything, but you could try some of the other counter spells. They're not frequently seen in Eternal, but man, when you have a solid unit on the board and then you have a Backlash in hand that you could leave up, you just feel so good. You find it very difficult to feel like you're going to lose that game, because most of the time countering that one crutch spell or something as big as a Harsh Rule or End of Story, just, oh, it's so good. Or their one market turn to seed, they're like, aha, and you're like, aha.
Yeah, and just when your game plan is just committing hard, right, to the board.
Yeah, it's great in limited. I know there's not many people that like playing Backlash in limited. I like having one in my deck. I believe you're okay running them as well, John.
Oh, sure.
Yep.
I mean, it depends on the format, but yeah, I think in most I'm down for one.
Yeah, well, especially right now, because you can predict 6 is such a crucial part when it comes to tempo, right? If they're playing, there's Disappear, there's Cut Ties, there's Snap. There's a decent amount going on at 6, so it's you can kind of anticipate that and resetting.
And there's a whole archetype that wants to play expensive spells at 5-6, right? Mm-hmm. So and that's at that point, it's not that hard for you maybe to play a 2-3-4 drop and then hold up 2 power. So yeah.
Alex, where are you at on counter spells and limited? Let's just say Backlash. Let's not go too deep into the other ones.
Yeah, I like one.
Yeah,
it's a pretty good blowout. I like different counter spell better, but I like a Backlash.
Yeah. Do you
the one primal negate any fast spell? I like that one a little bit better, I think.
Yeah, and limited because of combat tricks.
Yeah.
In this format in particular.
Yeah, I agree. Sweet. All right, that's going to do it. Once again, shout out to Kalos, another streamer that comes up with some very aggressive brews and fun stuff, so definitely check them out when you guys get the chance. But all right, that's going to do it, guys. That's our show for this week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really do appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the show and our shenanigans. We will be back next week when we have Collector on the show to talk about this format and his World's experience. John, thanks for being on the show, man. Appreciate you putting up with me.
Anytime.
Alex, my brother, you're my draft hero, man.
Thanks for having me on every week, man.
But all right, guys, that's going to do it. So until next time, as always, happy gaming.
Hey.
Good luck in your draft queues, everyone.